Completing checkout reports on Inventory Hive is really easy. The main features are that when you're conducting your checkout report and you've already got your check-in report on your Inventory Hive account, you can do a side-by-side comparison within the app. This is really good because if you ever need to submit this document to an adjudicator or to the courts, it's all audit trailed in one document with before and after comparisons. So I'm going to show you now how to set up a checkout report and some hints and tips on how to create that checkout report to speed up that process and help you reduce those deposit disputes. Setting up your checkout report to compare against the original check-in is very simple. So against the relevant tenant, you click on the cog, then click Add Report. You'll then choose the report type as a checkout report, but it's important to compare against the original check-in inventory. So below that, there's a drop down which will say start from scratch and then the reports you've already done at the property. But I want to select from the check-in inventory. So when the checkout report gets generated, you'll be able to see the check-in report within the app. So that's set up, and then it will say, would you like to duplicate the photos from the selected report to the new report? It's not particularly recommended to do this unless you're doing a new check-in inventory and the photos are very similar. Would you like to clear the item descriptions? I typically mark this as no because you want to keep the descriptions in there. And would you like to complete this in offline mode? I'm just going to tick this as no for the time being because I'll show you how to go in offline mode in a second. You'll need to edit the sync settings when going in offline mode when doing a checkout report to make sure you pull in those check-in report descriptions. You click Save and Next and that report will get generated. Before going in offline mode to conduct your checkout report, you need to make sure the sync settings are set up correctly. It's really important that you make sure you're pulling across your check-in photos across to your checkout report so you can view them in offline mode. So you click on the three lines in the top right hand corner and click Sync Settings. You'll notice there's a question that says Sync check-in reports for comparisons. Mine's currently marked as no, but if I tick this as yes, then that means when the report gets generated, your check-in report photos and descriptions will pull across into offline mode so you can compare the before and after condition on your checkout report in offline mode. You click Save and Sync and that will get updated. So then that will sync and then you're ready to go in offline mode. Once that's done, you then click in the three lines in the top right hand corner, click Go Offline, and that will put the app in offline mode. Just a reminder, before you go in offline mode, make sure you do that at the office or at home with a strong 4 or 5G signal or with a good Wi-Fi signal. Now you've set up your checkout report to compare against your original check-in inventory done on Inventory Hive, you're able to view previous descriptions, photos, and any tenant feedback on the app in offline mode. So for example, if I go to the bathroom and the door internal, I notice that the tenant actually provided some feedback on their check-in report, which you can now view on the checkout report. So you know when you go and inspect that item, you can view those comments. So you can click on the previous feedback from the tenant. So they noted that the door handle is broken. The inspector noticed that we'll get it fixed. So you know when you go and inspect that item on the checkout report, that was noted at check-in. So you can't deduct that from the tenant's deposit. You can also see the photographs as well of what the tenant and yourself as inspectors provided at check-in. And then you can also see the previous description as well. So in this case, it was free of marks and scratches to the front side and reverse, but you also need to take into consideration the previous tenant comments. You then work your way through the report and include the items you want to in your checkout report. But please look at the previous descriptions, photos, and tenant feedback as well. There's no need to include absolutely everything in your checkout report. Typically, it's only tenancy breaches, deposit disputes, or any maintenance issues, as you can see here. So I've gone into my checkout report, which I've compared against the original check-in, and I want to include the kitchen, cupboards, and units in my report. So I'll find that particular item, click into that, And as you can see, it's noted the previous description. So before, it was noted that all handles and hinges were intact, when obviously they're not now on the checkout. So what I'm going to do is include that in my report. So I'm going to clear the description, and you can free type in the box, but in this case, I'm just going to voice dictate. So I tap in the box, tap the microphone in the corner. The handle is now hanging off and it needs repairing, full stop. It's typed that out. I've clicked done. You can then take a photograph of that. There you go, clearly evidencing the handle hanging off. That's added in, and then you can mark the current condition as fair, the cleanliness is good, obviously it's showing the previous descriptions there. Flag the item for maintenance, so it needs repairing. It's the tenant's responsibility because it wasn't like that at check-in, so it's a tenant's fault. And put in a remedial cost, and the handle is hanging off. That's populated in, but the key thing you need to do here is to include this item in the report. So at the bottom, it says include this item in the report. You must tick that, otherwise that won't be included and your checkout report will be blank. Once you've done your rooms and spaces and utilities, you now need to do the report notes and answer your compliance questions. So you just go into report notes, add in some additional front cover notes if you want to, and click done. And then you go to health and safety alarm compliance and fire dog compliance. So it's good to answer these questions because you can evidence these at checkout on the final checkout report. So you work your way through these questions and answer them yes or no, or not applicable if they're not relevant to your report. Once you've done that, you can go into fire door compliance, answer those questions if you want to in your report, and they'll get slotted in. And then I'd recommend moving down to the checkout step. So this is where you can take a photograph of the keys and answer if they've been handed back correctly. Appliance manuals as well. Make sure the doors and windows have been locked on exit, and all tenants' items, rubbish and food has been removed. If not, you can click no and add a photo to the bottom section of the report. You can add in some additional notes, tenant's forward email address, action required, and some additional photos if you want to. So you click done, that section has been done, and then you just check over the tenant's details and sign off the report. What you need to do next is check your tenant's details and then sign off the report. So you just click on tenant's details, have a look if everything is accurate and correct, such as the name and email address, and then you check signatures and approvals. So was the tenant present during the inspection? Yes or no? Again, answer that question. And do you require a tenant signature for the report? Again, it's personal preference if you want a tenant signature on the report, but sometimes you might not want to. We've got a whole webinar which goes into a deep dive about checkout reports and best practice on our webinars channel, so do take a look at that. You then scroll down, populate the start time, the end time, your name, date, and a signature. So populate those in, sign them off, and then you're ready to go back online, preview report before submitting it off. When you've got back home or back to the office, you now need to go back in online mode before you can preview and submit the report. So what you do is at the bottom, it will say working offline, sync required, tap here. You tap that button, click begin sync, and your work will be transferred from offline mode back up online. That will take a few seconds, but as mentioned, always make sure you've got a strong Wi-Fi or 4 or 5G signal before doing that. Once your work's been transferred back up online, you're able to preview that report and submit it off. Creating checkout reports is never easy, but hopefully we make it as easy as possible for you while using the Inventory Hive app. If you need any further help, just email support@propertyreporting.co.uk and we'll always be on hand to help. Our average response times to support tickets Monday to Friday between 9 and 5 are under 10 minutes, so we're always waiting for you. Alternatively, head over to our support page where you can view lots of support articles and even view any training videos and webinars specific to creating checkout reports. So do take a look at them, but alternatively, please reach out as we're always on hand to help you guys.